founder of the Chief Operating Officer Business Forum, Inc., or the COO Forum, and welcome to another session of COOs and Executives in Transition. We designed this whole thing to support Chief Operating Officers in these uncertain and challenging business times, getting COOs in job transition on their way to the next great opportunity for them. We're open to COO Forum members as well, and any Chief Operating Officers or second in commands with absolutely no fee and no obligation. The initiative aligns with the Chief Operating Officer Business Forum, Inc., which is our core values that expressly extend the opportunities for Chief Operating Officers and second in command executives. I have just a few brief ground rules to share just for everybody's, just makes it work better, and we have a kind of an agreement on how we're going to talk and do things together. First off, meeting courtesy. Let's mute when when the session is on. Should be muted now because I'm speaking. That just makes it more effective for us. Business first. If you need to do anything, you need to run to the restroom, you need to run down and get a sandwich, the dog needs to be put out, whatever business happens that isn't really our business, don't worry about it. Just do it. We're relaxed, casual, informal. We understand that this is what happens in Zoom. Business language and no politics speak for themselves. We certainly don't have any need for that in our COO Forum. The meeting will be recorded and it will go onto the Mighty Network, which is where you can see it. So just be alert to that as well. And then keep your job prospects confidential. I just don't want anybody having a great opportunity poached by somebody else on our call. So let's practice that as well. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A session, and we're also going to have some other kinds of sessions as we go along today. Let me introduce to you the people that are here with the Chief Operating Officer. First off, Laura Weichel, who is the one in the upper right on my schedule here. Laura is the COO Forum second in command. She's been with us for 13 years and is our Executive Vice President. Based in Atlanta, she is responsible for leading the many and various activities of the Chief Operating Officer Business Forum, COO Forum organization, leadership overseeing all chapters, chapter directors, and members. She is a wonderful, upbeat, visionary colleague who creates extraordinary outcomes and successes. And we all know how important Laura is to the Chief Operating Officer Business Forum. We're also joined by Fiona Murray, who's new to the COO Forum and is taking the point on all the administrative and all the different kinds of things going on in the COO in the COOs in transition. We're counting on Fiona to kind of keep the trains running on time there, and she's done a great job, and we're delighted she's with us. Two thought leaders, and I'm going to share with you each one of their bios briefly here. Catherine King. Catherine King previously served in international country management positions in North America and Europe since 2001. During this time, the international business increased sales and grew revenue in double digits, improving price to earnings ratios for these publicly traded firms. An experienced leader of change management, Catherine was appointed to lead a turnaround in the UK for a portfolio of brands focused on matching talent to business needs in the areas of human resources, sales and marketing, law, information technology, geosciences, life sciences, and mass recruitment for the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games. She's had a decade of experience and specializes in recruitment, executive search, coaching, and cultural diversity. Besides doing all of this, she also chairs the Greater Michigan, Detroit chapter for the COO Forum, and we're delighted she's part of our team. Paul Herrerias. Paul Herrerias is the Managing Director at Comhar Partners San Francisco office. and has for over 30 years of experience in executive search and leadership consulting. As a Chief Financial Officer Specialist, Paul leads Comhar Partners, CFO, and financial executive practice groups. He is also a coach and a mentor to Chief Operating Officers and executive teams. Prior to Comhar Partners, Paul was trained as both a CPA and an organizational development human resources consultant. Paul firmly believes that teams build businesses, not individuals. In his spare time, you might find him running through the mountain trails, brewing his own beer, or taking pictures of the world around him. And Paul heads up the COO Forum's Marin County, Sonoma County chapter, and has been with us for a long time. And we appreciate both Catherine and Paul in their service to the COOs in their particular areas. For that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. Paul, you're up.
First step is to unmute myself. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. And it's good to see a lot of familiar faces and some new faces on here, and some ladies in the lineup here today as well. So thank you. Today we're going to talk about search strategy for the C-suite. And it's one of those things where I say that we already know all this stuff. It's just helpful to have it reminded for you, and sometimes brought back to a focus, and bring it back to kind of tangible, measurable ways that we can work with. Some of what we're going to talk about in search strategy is going to be helpful and thought-provoking. Some of it might turn some traditional thinking up on its head. So what I want to do here today is to share with you that if you're in a search transition, the job search is going to be something that requires a lot of focus and attention. You need to really put some energy into it. You have to commit to make it happen. You have to do it in tandem with everything else that's going on in your life. Sometimes you're doing it while you're maintaining a job, certainly while you're maintaining, the rest of your life as well. So family and community and health and fitness, all those other activities are going on at the same time. So it's going to be very difficult to build a good strategy and work that strategy, but that's what's required, and that's what's expected of you as chief executives in organizations, that you can multitask like this. So it's helpful to have a plan, work with the coaches and mentors to put that plan together, and work that plan on a disciplined daily or weekly basis to be able to achieve the success that you're looking for. So if we go to the next slide.
I'm a bit frozen here. Bear with me. There we go.
These are some of the things that we're going to cover here today. Catherine and I are going to talk about the emotional cycle of a search. We're going to talk about some reality checks that you need to go through. And Catherine is going to share a little bit about, knowing yourself. Some of this may be a little bit of an overlap with what you've heard in some of the other sessions, or will hear again. And that's a good thing. They're worthy of reinforcement as well. And what I'm going to cover a little bit today is the plan. How do you write out a search strategy plan for yourself? So we'll go to the next slide. So one of the things that I think is important is to remember that if you have a job search, it's an activity. So you want to plan your job search work, and then work that plan. Find somebody to hold you accountable to that plan. It makes it much more effective. It's not just something you poke at with a stick, but if you got somebody holding you accountable, whether it's your spouse or a friend of yours or somebody you designated as a coach or a mentor, it makes a huge difference and makes it much more enjoyable as well. And then one of the things that we mentioned in here says, when you have successes along the way, having an attitude of gratitude goes a long way to keeping your energy up, and that of your network and supporters, which is really helpful for any job search, because you have to have a network, you have to have supporters, you have to have champions. Next slide. So I'm going to talk about a formula here today. It's a 4-step formula. If you want to be hired by somebody as a COO or executive, they're going to be evaluating you on 4 elements. If you know that, you can address those 4 elements and should be at all times throughout your search process, both in the strategy you use and in execution in an interview. So when I'm working with clients that are hiring CEOs, COOs, CFOs, they want to know, number 1, do I trust this person? If I give them the keys to my kingdom, can I anticipate their behavior? Number 2 is, do they have the credibility to have this job? Do I believe it? Will other people believe it? If I hire this person, will I look smart in doing so? So they look to your credibility to see if you, shall I say, look like a duck and walk like a duck and quack like a duck. Okay. Third part is skills and experience. And at this level, at the C-suite level, it gets a little harder for clients to test that. So it's more conversational. So I'll show you some ways to break it down and present your experience for them. And then the 4th thing is the demographics. I call that the windows. You either climb through the windows or you don't. You know, and I'll show you the demographics and how to break those down as well. Next slide. Thank you. Before I launch into the formulas, I want to give you some of the benefits, some hints from having worked with thousands of people over my 30-some years in executive search. And I've coached a lot of folks that are in transition, as well as folks that weren't even thinking about making a move until I called them and got them, you know, focusing on it. So here's my 10 hints, and just kind of run through them quickly. Here is number 1, don't poke it with a stick. Either you're going to do this or you're not. So get your head in the game, and that is a lot of what Catherine's going to be talking about as well, how to do that. Counsel with your mentors, and remember, you need to recruit them. I refer to your mentors as the people who help you figure out the whys, you know, in your career search and in your life. You know, why you're going to do this. And then I talk about the coaches as the people that show you how to implement the why. So in the meantime, you want to gather data from your stakeholders that are going to impact on your life. So your mentors, your coaches, your spouses, your past bosses, the people that promoted you, those are all stakeholders in your career. Number 5, mine your network. You know, it's so important that you build your network, nurture your network, feed your network. You know, it's a living, breathing thing that you're going to be taking care of. Your network will help you be successful. Some people say that your network today will impact your net worth tomorrow. So feed and nurture your network. Help as many people as you can in the process. If you're not working and you're doing a job search, one of your big jobs is to feed your network. You know, be aware and reading and talking to people in your industries. Find out things that will be of interest to the people in your network and share it with them. So give them information, help them with leads on acquiring new companies or looking for new jobs themselves, whatever it is that your network is in need of. So know your network, know what they need, feed them at the same time that you're looking to take withdrawals out of that bank account. Number 7, stay fresh and attractive. And that's learn. You know, be reading and learning yourself an hour every day of reading when you're in a job search. Keep your positive attitude by doing your daily reading on a lot of topics and exercising and, you know, good diet, those types of things keep your activity level high, keeps you fresh, keeps you attractive out there as well. A healthy body, mind, and spirit is very important to a job search. And know your search plan and then work your plan. And that gives you a peace of mind when you know you've worked your plan today. And that peace of mind will help you make good decisions and be more attractive as well. So those are some of the top 10 hints that I give to people who are in a job search process. Now for the formula itself, we'll go to the next slide. So I mentioned that we're going to look at the 4 pillars of getting hired. So the first thing is trust. Trust is a first-person experience. As I mentioned, I know you well enough to be able to anticipate your behavior. If I give you the keys to my treasury, I know what you'll do with them. If I have operational decisions that need to be made for the sake of our company or our people or clients, I know what decisions you're going to make because I understand you, understand your values. I have a good gut feel that you're going to be a person that I'm going to enjoy working with, and we're going to share those decisions and values in a meaningful way. So that's ability to anticipate your behavior. The next thing is the credibility, and this is a third person experience. This is what other people have said about you. So whereas trust is a first person visceral experience, credibility is third person, paper on the wall, what colleges admitted you and graduated, you with the degrees, CPA certificates, Lean Six Sigma certificates, references from other people, even your resume is a part of the credibility, and you'll package that in the most productive way possible and the most meaningful way. So you want to have credibility that reinforces your brand that we talked about last week. Next step is skills and experience. And we're going to break this down into 4 subsectors. If somebody asks you, oh, you're a COO, what do you specialize in? Or you're a CFO, or you're the president of the company, what's your niche? Break it down for them in these 4 categories. First, your industry expertise. Second, the types of organizations that you can work well in and succeed in and master in building. 3, the kinds of relationships that you're used to that you can build, how many people you can supervise, or the level of people you report to, how many people you build trusting relationships with inside an organization. So it's all about relationships. And then the 4th element is your functional expertise. So are you a head of finance, sales, R&D, manufacturing? Those are all functional experiences. And I put them in this order for a particular reason. And you'll notice that, if you want to go back just for a second, when you graduate from college, you're identified by your function, right? What was your degree in? Those are all functional degrees for the most part. That's because that's the way corporate America and our educational system have worked together for the last 100 years. But once you get beyond a manager's level, now it's more about how much you know how to manage people, how much you know how to run an organization, and how much you know about your industry. And the question is, how well do you know to make $1 of profit in your industry? So you should have 1, 2, at the most 3 industries that you're an expert in, because that becomes now the most important thing when you're interviewing for a C-level job. You're identified more by your industries than by those college degrees and functions that you've supervised. It's assumed now that you can manage all functions in an organization when you get to the level you're at today. So talk and address and work with your industries. Demographics. We talked about demographics and the importance of those ranges and being able to fit through them. That's what I call them the windows. Time, place, compensation, and travel. The client is building their windows for each job. You need to have your ranges, and you have to have it worked out with your family as well, and get to know yourself. What can we manage in terms of how many hours a day I put in the job, or what's the compensation, what's the base salary that I need to operate on. So know all these ranges before you start, because you need to arm your posse in each of these areas as well. So going back to a summary here: trust, credibility, experience, and demographics. Those are the 4 pillars of getting hired, and you have to master being able to present yourself and know yourself in each of those 4 categories. At this point in time, what I'd like to do is take a poll and just ask the question: how prepared are you for your job search? How confident are you that you know what your job search strategy is? And I'm going to give Laura a moment to present that poll and give everybody like 20 seconds to answer the first question here.
Yeah, I think both questions came up, Paul. If you can answer, if you want to go through the second one, because I don't think I separated them into 2. We can address that later as well, but take a few minutes, a few seconds to answer these.
There we go. The first one, you pick one. The second one, you pick all that apply for you.
Give about another 5 seconds to take care of that, and then I'll end the polling.
The funny thing is that everybody should have the job search written strategy, whether they're looking now or not.
Okay, a couple more seconds, and I'm gonna close it. And Paul, can you see that as co-host? Can you see the results, or do you want me to read it to you?
I cannot.
Okay, so on the first one, what's your confidence in developing and executing your search strategy? It's showing that 63% of the people are somewhat confident. So the highest percentage is 63%. 25% of you are very confident, and 13% are neutral, but that's the lowest. Nobody's unconfident or uncomfortable. And then as far as where are you in developing your search strategy, it looks like probably the majority of people have done the necessary work to know themselves. And so 19% have written their job search strategy. 75% have done the necessary work to know themselves. 31% have refined their job search network. 50% have armed their network with a resume, cover letter, and one pager. 63% are feeding information to their network to help them as well. And about 20 says they're right on track with their job search strategy.
Excellent.
To help you out.
Fantastic. No, that's good. All right. And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Catherine to walk us through some of the additional points here. Now that we've got the hard side, we're going to address the soft side that will help everybody to be successful with this.
Yeah, excuse me for that. Thank you so much, Paul. That was very informative. I think starting with this subject is an important topic because all of you in these executive ranks have no doubt taken assessments of various sorts. Anything from what I like to call a mood ring type online assessment, depending the outcome and result and what kind of mood you're in, to the more sophisticated inbox exercises that are conducted by psychological experts. In any event, what I would pose to you is that if you've done this work before, that doing so now, even if it's reflecting upon a prior assessment, might reveal some different result because the circumstances have changed. So as we all know, if you are in a situation where your livelihood has been affected, these are negative emotions that have to be addressed. You could feel anger, you could feel fear. These levels of uncertainty impact your ability to be confident in your search. And it's important to know and recognize these are normal reactions to finding yourself in transition. It's nothing to ignore, and it will impact your search and your presentation to potential employers. So one thing I would say about this is that there's sometimes a notion of depersonalizing. If you've been in transition and the position was eliminated for whatever reason, there's the psychological advice to depersonalize. Well, I will just say that again, to quote Vito Corleone, that it's not an appropriate quote right now, and that is that it's not personal, it's just business. There's nothing more personal than your profession, your career, and your livelihood. So recognizing that about yourself is important. And we spent some time on that, Paul and I, looking at this, because we talked about taking ownership, being kind to yourself in this process. And that's a very important point. One thing that needs to be said is when you're in transition, depending on the position you came from, you may have been in an environment where it's very fast-paced, very intense. You had a lot of resources behind you on a bullet train to, boom, you're on your own. And the intensity and the pace slows. So what do you do in that situation, and how do you manage and marshal the same level of energy that you had as a senior executive in your former roles? And it's important to keep that energy going, because you need to marshal those resources into your job search in the way that Paul described, as far as the details related to the plan. Reality check. This is about understanding and minimizing your risk personally. So the question here, and this is a euphemism and question, the real question is, what is your funding like? How much time do you have in order to execute a search that will take you into your next career? And everyone may have a different answer to this, but it's important to take this into consideration, because you want to build a plan, a search plan, that is realistic to your personal circumstances when it comes to finances. So this is also something that should go into your plan as if you were writing a business plan for your company. This is a bit sexist, I have to say, that your stakeholders, Laura and Fiona and whoever else is a woman on this call will recognize this. I represent many executives that are female executives that are the sole income earners. So I put this on here, and it's a bias that's in the system, I have to say. But the fact is that your family is very important, whether that is a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, parents, your circle of family are very important stakeholders in your plan. And speaking from personal experience, if you're very far along in your discussions with a potential employer, and that involves relocation, perhaps to another country even. These are things that I know all of you as executives will absolutely bring your stakeholders into that discussion prior to deep discussion with a future employer. So that's very important as well. So we go to the actual plan. And that is that you would approach this plan, and Paul gave an excellent outline there, as if you were writing a strategic plan. Having been in the C-suite myself, your plan should be as broad as if you were writing a plan for a business. So that would include budget, timeline, milestones, network, all the things that Paul talked about when it comes to focusing your strategic plan on a search that is going to involve your next career step. The relationship and networks in this space are extremely important. And as Paul discussed, I would just say that here, and this is important about being informed and articulate on the big issues of the moment. In this moment that we're in, these issues in particular, social justice, the Black Lives Matter movement, diversity and inclusion, these are global, top of mind issues by most business people and organizations. So if you find yourself uneducated in this area, or uncomfortable even speaking about it, it's very important that you self-educate and find resources where you can educate yourself, that you can speak intelligently about these issues. ESG is another very large topic right now, looming large on the minds of senior executives in various organizations globally, and that is environmental sustainability and governance, with a very heavy emphasis on the S. For obvious reasons, the sustainability issue is a very big one, as we saw our worldwide supply chain disruption. So these are big issues. Towards the end of this presentation, we've included some resources for you that you can draw upon for self-education. Continue on here. That is about expanding your network. Now this is, I won't go into great detail here. Paul did a wonderful job of that. But the question that's posed here is one of self-reflection, and that is, who do you know? When you're putting your network, this aspect of the plan into play in your written plan, the question is, who do you know? What does it reflect about you, and why? And these are questions that only you can answer as you put this together. And I don't know, Paul, if you had anything additional in mind about that last point that you might want to add about the question, what does it reflect upon you and why? Do you want to add anything to that?
Sorry, I was on mute. When we talk about your personal brand, we talked about your network, and kind of who you know. I love that old saying, it's not so much who you know as who knows you. So you have to be able to build a relationship with people in your network and let them know who you are. Share your brand, help them get a better feel for who you are. There's a lot of times when your brother or your cousin or somebody that you're socializing with really don't understand what you do. And so I find it so refreshing, even for myself, when people give me a 2-minute recap of what they do and how I can help them. And so that's something we just don't do much in America, but it's so powerful to really arm your network and let them know, hey, this is who I am. This is what I am doing. This is the search that I'm conducting. This is what I'd like to see. That's where that one pager to arm them comes in really handy. And be selective in your network and choose the people that you really want representing you. And your network is a reflection of your values and your efforts. So
yeah, thank you for that, Paul. There was one senior executive who's the CEO of a very large company who his last couple of hires were from his personal network of his children's sporting events, where he met his next C-suite, 2 executives that were hired from children's sporting events where they were coaching and doing extracurricular things. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And the same would be true for women as well that are in C-suite roles that are hiring. So the network it will come into play as well there. Thanks very much, Paul. So let's move on here. This is again the emphasis on the planning part. And notice that we have it that, in the network there, I just want to make a mention of this because recruiters is listed second. And no doubt all of you have spoken to executive recruiters. Paul and I are both in this business as I know all of you have either used recruiters before, perhaps been represented. But I would just say that it's good to network with recruiters and it's absolutely good to be represented, but it should be a small portion of your plan. The big lift here in your personal execution of this search plan, because you're your own recruiter, you're your own marketer, and that is a big part of this effort on your part.
Catherine, can I just interject?
Yes, go ahead.
I did a survey about 5 years ago of chief level people, and I said, how did you find your last job?
Mm-hmm.
And it was something like 40% through personal connections, prior bosses, people they knew. 20%, it was a first line connection with someone they knew. They had shared with their network that they were looking and their network found them the job. 24% used search firms or recruiters. And then the rest of it was want ads and stuff like that.
Right. I think I've been an executive in the recruiting business, but as far as being a recruiter representing like the business that we're in now, it's a very different feel to the business. I would say that. And I would say to all of you that and I'm just going to be very blunt here, it's a mistake to rely on professional recruiters for your next role solely. They should be part of, but not a heavy reliance, because as what Paul just said, the statistics show that your next position will likely be from one of your networking relationships versus businesses like Paul or I. Even though we'd love to represent you, would love to put you in that next role, the chances are that it's going to be your network. So enough said on that. We've pounded that one. So let me carry on here. So this is about your plan, setting goals, measuring results. So what does that look like? What does working your plan look like? And that is that this is setting goals. This is DWM. So daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, mixing up your activities. Your approach to a search should be about getting up to work every day, putting all the energy and passion that you had in that fast-paced executive role that you had into your own personal search. And I would liken this to, if you've ever managed a sales organization, in my past, I've managed many sales organizations. And you can always tell when someone has a real pipeline, right? So if a salesperson comes to you, what does your pipeline look like? And they start talking about this great big pipeline they have. Really? How many proposals have you put in? How many clients have you talked to? What's the evidence that your pipeline is real, right? So it's the same thing here. And this may be because you're in your own search here, where before you were other directed, now you were solely directed, self-directed. This can be, what does that look like? It should be things like the connections Paul talked about. How many connections have you made on a daily basis? Real connections, not just LinkedIn invites, right? So real connections, making it a point to join an association in the target industries that you're going to. Have you been to a conference? Have you joined the organization that you're pursuing? Have you heard the last earnings call from the companies you're targeting? What is the CEO saying? And then customizing messages based on what you're hearing in the marketplace for target companies that you are going after. We've talked about all this networking and professional associations, reaching out to CEOs directly, how to do that. I mean, there's a lot of different opinions about how to reach out to CEOs today. Some CEOs are on LinkedIn, some are not on LinkedIn. Some CEOs will still answer their mail. If you look at some of the top CEOs in the companies that you may be pursuing, their age group, should you assume that they even understand what social media is? Some may not. They may be of the demographic that they just don't live in that space. So I think that this will vary depending on your individual plan, but it's important for the goals to be set. And then measuring results, putting KPIs together, just as you would a business plan, and measuring results. And what is that? How many interviews have you had? How many discussions? All of those things are important in measuring your plan. And then finally, celebrating every win. This can be a grueling thing for you emotionally, and it's important for you to reward yourself, show gratitude, be other directed as much as you can under the circumstances. So, and then doing something good for someone every day is something I think Paul talked about before. That is also an important point. So in summary, you would involve stakeholders, know thyself, know how to articulate your strengths, and then act with discipline in executing your plan and then working your plan. So I think I have a little bit of extra time left, Laura, because the second part of that survey was already done. So we're going to skip
move
this.
into the breakout room then 2 minutes early.
Yes.
Yeah, we want to give everybody a chance now to talk to one another about your search strategy, you know, and where you feel you are. The poll said that there's a pretty strong sense that we know ourselves and we have a written plan, but we want to create an opportunity for you to talk to other people about search strategy and kind of what they have done with it and how they're feeling about it, and things that they've picked up that's really helped them. So we'll move people into rooms and let you talk a little bit about your confidence level and what's worked for you in building search strategies. And then we'll report back out to the big group after about 8 minutes.
Okay. Get ready to send you all into rooms.
And we're back.
Hello. Oh, good.
Good
I
to
think
see
we're
you,
all
Phil.
back, Paul.
Sorry?
I think we're all back.
Back? Excellent. All right. So 2 minutes each group to report back. What were some of the things that are working, or what did you notice? We're talking about search strategy. So group one, you want to report back, please, Kevin?
Sure. I think we discussed about networks, how important it is to keep that network going. Particularly LinkedIn, I think it's such a huge platform that sometimes we tend to ignore that. Your profile, updating that profile, keeping it fresh is critical. I think in your search, and sometimes just looking at your resume, updating resumes. I think it's all critical things in your search, and I think one ought to keep that in mind as you go along. And sometimes, again, it could be your network that you haven't been in touch with for many years that you want to try and get back in touch with, or refresh, seek out some of these networks, colleagues in the past. I think it's all critical here as we move forward. The other important thing, obviously, is some of these groups, veterans groups, etc. That for those that have been in the forces, there are strong network groups. I know we talked about here in Florida, there are those groups. They probably exist throughout the country. Getting in touch with those veterans groups for those veterans, I think is critical. It could be leveraged.
Excellent. Thank you, Paul and Kevin. Group two, who was in room two?
Hi, Paul, it's Chris. I was in a group with Russ and Adam and Andrea, and we spoke about a few things, and guys, please chime in here. We spoke, a few of us have actually never been in the job search before. We've been lucky enough to secure roles through headhunters and through recruiters, and so we were talking about where we are with our plan and the benefit of these sessions in terms of giving us a framework for putting a real plan together. We talked about, obviously, the importance of networking and the importance of trying to get a Zoom call or a phone call versus just email communication, trying to have that sort of personal connection as part of the strategy. And then finally, we all talked a little bit about our LinkedIn profiles themselves. Obviously, we've all kind of clicked that button that says we're open to be contacted by recruiters. But what I've seen and what I asked the group was how open they are with their own profile in regards to where they are in their search and the fact that they are in transition. I've seen examples where people have been very open with the fact that they're looking for a job and almost kind of asking for whoever reads that note on LinkedIn to help them. But I think more senior executives are less apt to be that sort of transparent. Russ, Andrea, Adam, anything else you'd like to add to that?
I agree with what you said, Chris. In my own search, it's been through my personal connections, as we said, in trying to get phone calls and Zoom calls and expand our network through people who really understand who we are. I think that it's from what we talked about in the last meeting, it's those people who reinforce your personal brand. I think that's my experience.
Excellent.
The only other thing I'd add, Russ, you made the point that in the situations when you have used recruiters, it's been recruiters that you've known and not just
right.
just throwing out the wide net. So I think this reinforces the idea of going to your network.
There you go. Room three. We'll see if we can wrap up this session in about 2 minutes so that we can turn it back over to Bill and Laura after that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Stephen.
All right. No one was speaking, so I thought I'd jump in. So I was in the room with James and Jay, and we really discussed the strategy of closing the deal. And James and Jay both use the strategy of, at the end, creating a 30, 60, and 90-day plan about, or whatever length of time you want, about what you would do to help the company and move the company forward to achieving their goals, and create a plan for them to see that you understand what the issues are and how you would solve those problems and march them toward their end goal. And we also talked about situations where we did have several different interviews with different people, and finding out that they either all had different problems and saw different results to those problems, or saw completely different problems with the company that the others didn't know about, and it caused a lot of friction, and how none of us took those positions or wanted to take those positions in those companies, and how the C-suite dynamic and the senior and the executive level dynamic factor into whether you want to actually take the position or not. Anyone else can add anything to that if they want.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen.
I think you covered it well.
All right.
Thank you.
How about room 4?
I guess I'll quickly, Peter, Stephanie, Meredith, you all jump in, but our group, none of us had a formal written job search strategy. So we all agree that that would be a key takeaway coming out of this session. The other thing, myself and a few others included, are coming out of systemic industry changes as a result of the pandemic, whether it's print publishing, the events industry. And, I think, again, a key takeaway coming out of our breakout was that we probably needed to do more work, given that we had been in those industries for so long in our careers. It needed more coaching support, more self-introspection, really a critical inflection point, personally and professionally, as we really assess what our job search strategies should look like. And then, Josh offered to be a great resource, which was wonderful. The other thing I think I brought up in our group, which would be the last thing that I mentioned before I, allow anybody else to chime in, is that I think assessing your risk tolerance to join startups or smaller companies that may require more capital infusion, maybe less stable than and less structured really than larger corporations, is another critical part of your job search. It may be easier to find those types of roles, but it's definitely requires more risk and more buy-in from your spouses, for sure. Trust me on that one. So that's about it.
Excellent, Joy. Thank you, because that really was a lot about, when we talk about industries, organizations, and relationships and skills, organizations, that risk-reward relationship, and the big companies versus small companies, and the freedom versus structure, all that's in that conversation around organizations. I just put a note in the chat if somebody wants a copy of my written search plan strategy survey, let me know and I can send that so you can have a chance to write it all out. Good. Was there a room 5?
Just 4 rooms. We had 4 rooms, Paul.
Excellent. Okay. Well, at this point in time, Catherine and I would like to turn it back over to Bill and to Laura to talk a little bit about the series and next steps, please. Oh, Bill, you're on mute.
Oh, well, I can talk to the future of the Zoom sessions, but first of all, Catherine and Paul, thank you very much for sharing with us today. It was great. And I will post if you can get me those search plans, I can get those posted to the Mighty Network as well for everybody to download and use there. I'm sharing the future Zoom sessions we've got here. There were a couple before today, so if you have not had a chance, if you were not able to join those, they are posted and on, we have them uploaded to YouTube so you can listen to them at your convenience. But next week, we have the importance of LinkedIn in your job search with Carol Kammerer. We'll be raffling off 5 of her books, so make sure you join in. And Margaret Ritchie as well. She's one of our CO Forum chapter directors in Twin Cities and CEO of Cultural Strategies. And you can see the others that we've got scheduled for the 20th and 27th of October. And we also have sessions that go through December. Anyway, Bill, I will let you take it from here to close us out.
I just want to acknowledge that if you have a couple, the website, the Mighty Networks, and of course, Fiona, Laura, and I are always available. So feel free to reach out. We're always around, and we're committed to this this activity for the time being, because it's certainly very, very important and real in these times. I want to thank Paul, and I want to thank Catherine for extraordinary giving up their time to come here and be with you, with all of us. And I also want to thank everybody who participated. And we're going to continue to go forward, and we will hope that all these little squares that I'm looking at disappear as you find your next job and move on. And then you maybe want to come back and hang out with us at the COO Forum, where we have chapters all over the country. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bill.